Hi, in this video I'm going to explain to you how to use the customer support extension from BotTools. Now before I show you how to use it, let me explain a few things about it to you. Now the first thing you want to understand is what exactly is it? Well, what it will allow is two different users inside of your ManyChat account to talk to each other via a web chat that I'll show you in a minute, inside of anything you'd like to, really. So you can set up your support agent, and then when a customer comes in with a query, you can be able to identify what that query is and then set it up to the correct customer support agent. And from here, the customer support agent will be able to talk to that customer or client, and it will all happen within inside of a web chat. Now let me show you what this looks like. Now, as you can see here on my mobile, I've already got a few messages coming through, and what I can do is click on to read the message, and you can see here that I have the web view open for me to be able to send messages. If I'd like to, I can check out the person who sent me a message, and if I scroll over to the side, you can even see what people have been speaking to me, and I can even organize these people via alphabetical if I want to, or via level. Level is based on how the user goes through a chatbot. You can kind of like ask the customer with a query or your client to be able to do certain tasks, and when they do these tasks, they will then go up the levels. And you've also got the latest, as in which one of these customers or clients have recently joined the capability to converse with you via the web chat. Now you can also see at the bottom we have this little button here where you can see the chats, and you can see that I currently have a chat open that I haven't read. And if I want to, let's just show you, for instance, if I go to level, we can see that all of these users here on a level, and we can see that the level is just here at the bottom inside of my mobile view, making it quite nice and easy to actually view. It feels a lot like WhatsApp to me personally, the web chat, and that's how I'd best describe it. Now, let me show you what this looks like on a computer, so you can also see that it doesn't only work for mobile, but it can also work for your desktop. So as you can see here, on the left hand side we've got my account, Rupert, and on the right hand side we have Faye's account. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to be the customer, okay, and this is going to be Faye's account, so she's got a problem saying, hey, are you there? Send that over to me, and now ManyChat is going to notify me via that chatbot, telling me that there's a message that is sent. And you can see that the message just came through here now on my side. So now if I click onto the message, you can see that I've got the message here, and you go, I am. And now the message will come through onto Faye's account over here, as you can see. Now, obviously, if Faye is not here and doesn't have the web chat open and has it closed like this, I can always go, hey, are you there, for instance? And now Faye on her account is going to get message via the ManyChat bot to notify her that I have sent her a message. The same thing that kind of I showed you in the start, but just the other way round. And here you go, the message just came through. I can now click onto the read me message button, and you can see just there what we've got. So this is what the web view looks like, and how two different users inside of your ManyChat account are going to be able to talk to one another with a web chat without having to use live chat or any other kind of complex kind of ways that you might want to connect two people together. Now in this next part of the video, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be explaining to you how to set up this tool. There's a lot of variables, a lot of different things that you can kind of do, and how someone could become a customer support agent, and how somebody could actually sign somebody up to be, let's say, a client underneath of this support agent, or there's just a lot of different variations. So I'm going to go through a lot of this right now for you and kind of give you as much creative capability for you to go ahead and create the kind of support capability that you want to provide in your scenario. Now to do this, I am going to use a bit of language, and some of this I'm going to actually use my whiteboard to help draw out to hopefully make it as simple as possible for you to understand. The first thing I want you to understand is what is referred to as parent and child. Now, a parent and child scenario is a parent is, let's say, the support agent, and the child is going to be the customer with a query or a client. Okay, so it's kind of like, you know, underneath. That's the other way of looking at it, or in an MLM kind of way of how you have your downstream is kind of the way of looking at it. So parent and client, or support agent and customer, is kind of the way that I would go about trying to explain it to you. Now, as long as we've covered that, hopefully everything should be kind of easy to kind of understand as we go further, but I will be doing a few drawings, hopefully just to make it that little bit simpler for you to get. Now, the first thing that you're going to need to do is you're going to need to sign up your parent, okay, or your support agent. Now, there's a few different ways you can do this. I'm going to show you the first easiest scenario, and this is genuinely just asking the person to click into a ref URL, for instance, and then they go through essentially an onboarding flow. Okay, now this is the onboarding flow that I have for my parent in this use case. So in this use case, what I'm doing is I'm asking the parent, hey, how would you like your children or your clients to know you? How would you like them to know you as? Because maybe the support agent or parent does not want to be known actually by their first name from their account. They might want to go by a different name or have some sort of status inside of there for their level inside of a company. So what we do for this is that we're just going to ask the agent a few questions, and we're going to save these to a user field. In this use case, we're saving it to parent first name, and we're saying to them, hey, can you give me your name that you would like to know your clients to know you as? And then afterwards, we're saying, hey, can you give me the email address as well? Both of these have been saved to parent first name and parent email, making it very easy. Now, the easiest way to actually get signed up as a parent is to actually have your children underneath of you. So you're not really a parent until you've got a child, is the easy way of kind of looking at it. So this is the first part of this flow that I essentially want to point out to you. We've just asked the parent to essentially have some information about themselves, and now we've moved on to a growth tooling, and this growth tool, this ref URL here, is the link that you would give to your your children, your clients, or the customer with a query. So how did we create this growth tool is effectively the next question that you're going to need to have answered. So what we have is a second flow. Now in this flow here, this is the flow for what a parent would send to a child, and they would then essentially sign up underneath of this. Now, just to point out, okay, we are going to have a ref URL as a growth tool, as you can see, and what I've got is a user field that is going to save the user ID to it. So let's just go back and just make sure you've understood this. Inside of this growth tool that you can see here, we have got user ID written at the end of it. Okay, and whatever the value of the user ID, so this is the user ID of the parent, okay, the customer support agent, the user ID of that is going to be saved into the child's user field of system temp text. Okay, now I'll get to why this is called system temporary text in a second. It's just a very simple security measure for you to be able to place in so that a parent or a support agent doesn't click their own link and then it'll basically break the system. This is just something we have to make it a little bit simpler. So this growth tool, just to point out to you, it's very simple to make. You're just going to make a ref URL like I did. You're going to copy that ref URL. You're then going to come back over to that parent flow, and all you're going to do, exactly as it is, you can print it. You then need to go minus, and then you just need to put in the user ID, and it's as simple as that. Okay, now I'm going to explain to you now where does the general settings come in to actually now process this to actually sign up the child underneath of the parent. So now that you've gone ahead and you've set up your growth tool, what you're going to need to do is to connect the two parent and child together based off of the user ID. Now the parent is going to have a value inside of their user ID. This is that value just here. This is that user field just here. Okay. So the user ID, let's say that me as a parent, my value is 101. And what we want to do is we want to set the parent identification, okay, over to the value of a user field inside of the child. This way, me as the parent, I can identify who are my children. So if my user ID is 101, I am going to save the value of 101 to this user field for my children. Now this is a very simple process for you to essentially do. Like I said, you've got the user ID and you've got the identification field for the children. Now what we're going to do is we're going to copy that URL, okay, and we're going to come over to our rules. Now I have a rule here that is set up. It's referred to as CRM new user, and what we are doing is that we are saying that if the parent identifier CRM has changed value, meaning that essentially that this user field has a value now, which it should be, okay, in the scenario that I'm talking about, 101, because that would be the value for the parent, okay, then when we do have a value for a user inside of this user field, we are going to send this external request. Now, this is what you just copied from that blue button inside of your BotTools account, again, just to point out here, okay? And you are going to paste that link into here. You're then going to come to the body, click on Add Full Subscriber Data, and then you're done. Now, what this rule is going to do for you, it is going to effectively connect the two users together. Now, there's a little bit of security that you're going to want to implement to make sure that a parent doesn't click their own link and sets their user ID of 101 in my little scenario that I'm talking about to the user field and then trigger the rule, basically saying that the parent is the child of the parent of the child of the parent, and it goes around and around and around in a circle. Okay, so what we're going to do is put a little bit of a security measure involved into this. Now I showed you a little bit of this when we created the growth tool a minute ago, but now we're going to go into a full explanation of how this security is set up for you. Now here we are inside of the child setup flow. Now this is where the parent would have given the child a link. The child would have clicked on the link, and the idea is that we want to make sure that we marry up the user ID 101 from the parent to remember the parent identifier CRM user field that we put, if you remember, over here. Okay, but before we just go ahead and go bang, set that value, we're going to check that it's not the parent themselves clicking on their own link. So how we do this is, remember, we're sending over the value of the user ID, okay? That's why we've got the user ID, sorry, that's the wrong one. That's why we have the user ID being sent here, okay? We're going to save that user field of 101 of the parent to system temp text, okay? So now what we're doing is that we're saying, is system temp text got the same value of the user ID of this user? Basically saying, is system temp text also 101? If it is also 101, then we want to say, hey, very sorry, but you clicked your own link. Thanks for testing it. Why don't you try sending it to somebody else? Long story short. And if it isn't the same, we're then going to say, great, let's set the parent identifier CRM value to the value of system temp text, because the system temp text would have the value of the parent in this scenario. So we're temporarily saving the 101 value to this user field to simply check against this condition if it is the same value of this user's user ID or the same value of the parent user field, which is 101. Now I hope you've understood. That's a tiny little bit complicated. If you do have any questions, or if you want to talk to us about it, then I'm happy to help you out with it. Now, as we continue on here, we've got the child setup flow. So as you can see, what we've got inside of this flow is the first thing that it says, hey, first name, your parent or your support agent is referred to or called this user field, and you can contact them at this user field just here. Now, what is, if you remember at the very start of when we signed up the parent or the support agent, we said to them, hey, what would you like to be known as? And hey, what is your email? And we saved these to two user field, if you remember. We saved it to parent email and we saved it to parent first name. Now, over here inside of BotTools, what you've got here is referred to as transfer custom field. Now, what we're saying is that the parent, okay, has got a value here. So that's when we said, what's your first name? And we've got the parent email, and that's got a first name. And we want to take these values and we want to send them to the client or child, and we're going to put them into this user field of client parent name and client parent email. And the way that you're going to be able to send and trigger and make that transfer over to find the values is very simple. You're going to click copy the URL up here once you've gone ahead and set up which parent values you want to send over to the client. Just to point out as well, but you could also ask your client or your child for some user field values and then have it also sent over to the parent or the support agent as well, just in case. But anyway, copy URL, okay? And then when you come over to your ManyChat bot, when you're going to need those values, in our case sent to the child, you're going to need to hit a dynamic content block just before you need these user fields to have a value. And very simple, again, all you're going to do is to paste in the link here, come over to body, add the full subscriber data, click save, and you're all done. This purple block is now, long story short, going to trigger ManyChat to retrieve the values from the parent and set it to these user fields for you. So that's a very, very nifty and useful trick that you can do with the customer support extension. Now we're going to get into a handful of other different things that you're going to need inside of the customer support extension. For instance, would you like to have that chat capability, or are you trying to use it maybe without the chat capability and you just want to be able to see the user lists just without being able to let these two users converse with each other? Well, that's very simple. You can click no to activate chat, or you can say yes, I would like to activate chat. And when you go ahead and say yes I would, what you're going to have here, as you can see, is the message that is going to get sent to somebody when a chat can be activated, as in the sense of how I sent a message to Faye and it said, hey, Rupert has sent you a message, and the button below said read message. Now what we can do is I can show you what that looks like on my phone, just for a simple example. So here, as you can see on my phone, it said first name Faye sent you a message, and the button below says read message. Remember, this message was sent to me when Faye sent me a message and I wasn't open in the web view chat. Okay, so you see first name sent you a message, and here inside of the button you can see just up here name sent you a message, and if I wanted to I could write in something else into this message here, and this would then turn up inside of the message, and this would end up being the value for the button for the user to click onto when a customer or a client or whichever person has sent a message to the other party involved. Now that you know how you're going to be able to set up what the message is going to look like and what the button is going to look at, we can move on to some of the extra features that come with the customer support extension. For instance, we have the feature here which is referred to as chat action. Okay, now chat action is a really, really useful tool that you can use inside of the customer support extension, and I'm going to explain to you and show you how to use this now with a very, very, very simple use case. Now, this here, remember, is the child flow. So the child has clicked the link, they've gone through, and what we're doing is we're saying, hey, to verify signing up or whatever use case that you're going with, I need you to click this button, for instance. And when they click this button, you can see here that we're setting a user field called Chat Action CRM in my use case to first name clicked button. Okay, now if we look over here on the extension, you can see that I have a user field here called Chat Action CRM. And this value is going to transfer information over. And what we're going to do is we're saying that once the child has clicked this button, I would like you to set this user field to the value of first name has clicked button. So in the use case of between Rupert and Faye, it would be Faye has clicked the button. Okay? And what we're doing is that we're going to notify the parent with that message. Okay? And if we would like to, with an extra step, we can also deliver with that message a button to open the conversation between the parent and the child. So, to be able to transfer this message, what you're going to do after you've selected your user field, it's very much also, just before I carry on here, it's very much also like what's going on up here, but instead of you typing in manually what the value of the message above the button is going to be, you're going to allow it to be set via a value inside of a user field, is another way of looking at it. So chat action transfer. You're going to click onto this button after you've set that up, and you're going to again come over to your rules, and you're going to set up a rule called chat action CRM as a simple way. And you're going to say that chat action has any value. Okay, this basically means that when it has any value or has changed any value, okay, you're going to has changed to any value, okay, you're going to then send the value of what you just copied from that button into here, click body, add full subscriber data, and click save, and you are done. What this is going to do, like I explained to you, is that when the child clicks the button, it is going to save to that user field, first name has clicked the button, and we are going to tell the parent that now this child has clicked the button, making it very simple for you to do. Now we have another useful tool of the customer support extension just after this, which is going to be referred to as levels. So now what we're going to do is talk about levels. Now this levels, before I get into it, just remember I showed you inside the web chat at the start that someone had filled in a form. So you could set certain steps that you need your children or your support or your clients or customers with queries to fill in a few things, do a few stuff, and you want to know, have they done it? And if they have done it, then you're going to be able to do something after they've done something. And this is keeping track of, have they done this, and telling you the time of when they have done it as well. Now, to be able to set up this, you're going to need to set up your user levels, okay? Now in this one, I have gone ahead and set up user level 1 and user level 2. So you can go ahead and set up user level 3, as you can see, and we can say finish the form, okay? So now they would have a third user level, and this would be finishing the form. Now, once you've gone ahead and set up all the different user levels that you want, you're going to need to be able to identify when a child has got to that user level. Well, back here inside of the client list, okay, you're going to have at the very bottom of your scene this user field that you can set here. So you can see client level of CRM. Okay, so we're going to select a user field. Now, back over inside of the ManyChat bot, you can see here in my very simple use case that I have set the exact same user field, client level CRM, to the value of 1. And this comes after the user has essentially filled in a question for me. And then afterwards, you can see again that I'm asking them another question, and I'm going to set the user level to number 2. Okay, basically saying that I only need to remember 1, 2, and then I could do another one, and let's say it was 3 after they'd finished the form. Okay, now what we have got here is, remember, 1 and 2, and if we go back over to the user level over here, I've got 1 and 2. These are the identifying numbers for what name of the user, the name of the level that they are at. Okay, so when I go ahead, okay, and let's come back over to the client list. When I go ahead and I want to be able to update the value, it doesn't notify the parent, but it will just mark it inside of the web chat, just to point out to you. Now, to be able to set those values over, you're going to copy this, and again, we're going to go back to ManyChat, and we're going to go back to the rules, and we're going to say user level. So we're going to call this rule user level CRM, and we're saying once client level CRM, just to point out, client level CRM has changed to any value, meaning that it's changed from 1, 2, 3 in the little scenario that I was showing you, we're going to trigger this external request. And this is basically then going to update the web chat to identify that this user, this child, has done action 1, now it's done action 2, and now it's going to do action 3, and so on and so forth. And me as the parent, I can see when that child had done that action as well in the web view, just to point out and remind you about it. Now that you should have an idea on how the chat action works to tell the parent that an action has been taking place, and you should also understand how the user level works to be able to basically keep a report of where in the flow the child of a parent is, what you might want to do is to actually tell the parent that the user level has got to a certain level. And that's what I've set up here inside of this flow, or this part of the flow here, this action, to actually identify for you that the user has got to level 2. So you can see what we've done is we've set the user field for the level to the value of 2, which is not going to send a message to the parent saying, hey, the person has completed the form. But what we can do, again, is get the exact same user field as the chat action. So chat action, we need to set that to the value of first name has got to level 2. Now this would then send a message to the parent saying, hey, this child, the first name of this child, Faye, has got to level 2. Letting me know as the parent that that customer has got to level 2, and I don't need to, let's say, go and check on the web view about if someone's ever got to level 2. So it's a good way to combine the two features together inside of one action if you wanted to do something like this. Now what you can see is that we've basically got to the end of the child sign up, but what we'll ask the child at the sign up is, would you like to become a parent? Which essentially takes us back to the parent sign up flow, which is what I started with at the very start. Now, if you remember, I did stop halfway with this flow because I wanted to get to this link, basically let you understand what would happen when somebody would click it, how to create it, and now we're going to continue on with the rest of the flow. So what you can see here is how to view your client list. Now, me as the parent, okay, or me as the support agent, sometimes I might just want to open up my web view and find the web view. So I will go back to my ManyChat account, my chatbot inside of Messenger, for instance, and I'm like, instant access, please send me the button for me to click onto to view all of the children or the customers with queries or all of my clients on my web view. I want to be able to see that, okay? So inside of here, you can see that inside of the flow, I'm saying to them, hey, if you ever want to be able to see this, you just need to send the keyword of clients. So what we have here is a keyword setup. In this one, you can see that I've used the word clients, okay? And then once that is happening, we are then going to send this flow And inside of this flow, you can see that it is very, very simple. All it is doing is saying, hey, here is your client list, and giving us a button. Now, the value of this button is found inside of BotTools, and you can see just here what it looks like. Now, this button, okay, you find this one at the very top. Okay, so you're just going to be able to click this, and if you put this into a button, now the parent is going to be able to gain access to actually send, to click it and then gain access to actually view the client list of all of the people that they want to be able to see. So what we'll do is we'll just show you a quick example of this. So here you can see I'm going to send the word clients as a keyword. It is now going to come back with that message. Okay, so I can check my list. I'm then going to click onto this, and this is then bringing up the web view. And you can see how real simple that was. Okay, so it's always going to allow your support agents or your parents to be able to access the client list or customer list that they then need to get in touch with, just on the off chance if they ever want to start a conversation in the first place. Now, if we continue on to where we were with the parent flow when we were signing up someone to be a parent, you can see after I've explained to them about the keyword for clients, that we can also say to them, hey, would you like 5 free leads? Now, this is just another way of me basically saying, would you like to become part of our Rotor? Now, what the Rotor is imagine that you've got 5 support agents, and you want to be able to equally distribute the amount of incoming calls or leads to something. Now, in this use case, what I've gone ahead and done is basically not really made it part of the support agent kind of feel, but more of the lead acquisition. So if I was asking people to gather leads, and let's say I had cold leads coming into my chatbot, and I had a few people that wanted to help support cold leads that I can acquire and distribute them out to people that are going to do something with them, then this is a very good way of also using this. Now, the way that we've gone ahead and done this is that we've gone ahead and added tag. Now, this is going to be attached to a rule, but before we get into that, let me show you how you set up the Rotor. So you can see here at the very end of the customer support, we have the Rotor capability. Now, all you're going to need to do is to add a Rotor, and when you add a Rotor, you can name what it is, and all of the onbound calls going into this Rotor are then going to be people that are going to be part of your support agent. So you can see just here that what we've got, okay, is we've got these here are all of the support agents or the people in the Rotor waiting for the quantity of leads. And we can see here that we've got 2, 1, 0, 0, 0. Now, the way that we're going to be able to count, so these values here, these values you can see for like 2, 1, 0, 0, 0, we can actually update those values into a user field in ManyChat. Now, this is that user field that we are using just here. So this user field that you can select is going to actually carry these values, just to point that out to you. Now, to be able to add somebody to the Rotor, we've got this little blue button up here. You can see it says copy URL for new Rotor user. Now, if we go back over to ManyChat and I head over to my rules, you can see that we have new user and delete user. Now, just going back to the flow, you can see that I said, we will give you 5 free leads, okay? So if I come back to the rules, you can see that inside of the new user, it's based on tag applied, and then we've got the request. Remember, the request for copy URL for a new user is basically going to be saved into here. So copy paste, done, go to the body, add full subscriber data, click save, and we're done. And now, because the tag was applied, it's going to make this person part of the Rotor, because inside of the parent setup flow, it said add tag, great. So now we're going to make this person part of the Rotor. So now they're part of the Rotor, we're going to distribute them leads. Now, maybe, like I said, inside of my flow, that will give you 5 free leads. Okay, so in that scenario there, what we're going to need to do is to count how many leads the person got, which is why the user field that carries the value of the quantity of leads is so important to actually have. Because to be able to take somebody out of the rotor, so we make sure we're not giving them any leads after the point of 5, we're going to delete them from the rotor. Okay, so if I click here and copy this, this will actually take somebody, this will actually delete somebody from the rotor. Now, to make sure that you do that, remember, if we go back over to the rules, I've got another rule that is delete user from the rotor. And we can see here that if the rotor lead count CRM has changed to the value of 5, okay, we are then going to say to them, hey, you know, bang, we're going to take you out of the rotor, and this is the URL that you find from the delete from the rotor, just to point out to you again. If we come back to the body, you're just going to click onto add full subscriber data and done. And to carry on with my kind of little scenario that I've built inside of these flows that I'm showing you, I then send them a flow basically saying to them, hey, you have had your 5 free leads. So now that you understand how you can add a support agent to the rotor and also delete a support agent from the rotor or a parent, basically you have to be a parent to be able to be part of the rotor, just to point out to you. What we're going to need to do is to add children to the rotor to be, and let's say, you know, 100 children were to come into this, and we were going to equally distribute those 100 children amongst 5 people. That would mean that they would have to get 20 each, and that's what this will do for you. But how does somebody become a child to somebody that they don't know who their parent is? Well, it's very, very simple. The blue button again up here, the copy URL one in this case here, what you're going to do is that is going to be what is going to identify a child without a parent, and the BotTools customer support extension is going to give that child to a random parent. Now what you're going to do, like I said to you, is copy the URL. You're going to come back over to your rules, and you can see here that I have a rule set up called new cold leads CRM. And in this one, very, very simple, you know, it is just new subscriber. So once somebody becomes a new subscriber, I mean, users could become a child and then you kind of subscribe to your bot in cold fashion in any kind of way if they wanted to. And, you know, they could answer a handful of different questions, all sorts of things to be able to become a cold lead. But once that person has essentially done that criteria to become what is known as cold lead, and you want to distribute that to your support agents, all you're going to need to do is to paste the link that you got from the top corner, just to go back here and just point this out to you again, because I do a lot of talking. This button here, you're going to paste that one up here and click on the body. Again, make sure you've added your full subscriber data. Come down to save, and you are all done. Now, I know that was very long-winded, maybe to go through. As you can see, there's a lot of variables. There's a lot of different ways that you could actually use this. As you can see, I was using the terminology of parent and child, also support agent and customer with query, also client and lead. There's lots of different ways you can actually use this depending on how you're using it. To be frank with you can use it for customer support, lead creation, also MLM use cases. There's a lot of different ways that this extension can be used. And I will be making a lot more training videos on particular scenarios and use cases and making some templates for you and kind of going over it. If you do on the off chance though think to yourself, wow, that was quite a lot and I'm not exactly sure if the scenario that I'm trying to implement needs this tool, I'm more than happy for you to get in touch with me. You can find me inside of the BotTools community. Drop me a quick message, you know, leave me a quick video if you want to, like 2-3 minute thing, and I'll be happy to read over it and give you my opinion on how I would use the tool And if you did need some help, I'd most probably help you too. So I hope that this explanation of the customer support extension has been helpful. And like I said, if you ever have any other ideas on other tools and extensions that you think, hey, this could be a cool idea to add into my ManyChat account, please let me know as well, because I'm always happy to go and investigate on how we can make something a reality for you.